Omni-Man killed an entire trainload of people with his bare hands, and the internet treated it like the most shocking villain introduction ever made. Thrag looked at that moment and called it beginner work. And he wasn't wrong. But here's the part nobody is talking about. Thrag has been hiding the real heir to the Viltrumite throne for thousands of years, and that heir is someone you already know. Stay with me for 10 minutes, because by the end of this video, Thrag won't just be a villain to you. He'll be the most understandable monster you've ever seen. 8 things about Thrag that explain exactly why Season 4 hits differently than anything this show has done before. Let's go. Thrag was engineered from birth. No childhood. No choice. Thousands of years of being built into a weapon and then handed a dying empire to hold together. 2 sentences of backstory. Here's what actually matters. Because he was made rather than shaped by experience, he has no reference point for doubt, mercy, or failure. Every decision he makes is the output of a machine programmed with one instruction: win at any cost. Most villains have a moment where they chose darkness. Thrag never had a moment where anything else was offered. He kept Argol's skull beside him in the throne room for thousands of years, not as a trophy, as a reminder of what failure looks like. That isn't confidence. That is a man who was built to win and still wakes up afraid of losing. Most people get a difficult childhood. Thrag got thousands of years of it and a job title at the end. The empire he was handed was already broken before he touched it, and buried inside that broken empire is a secret he's been protecting longer than most civilizations have existed. That secret changes everything about what Season 4 actually is. The Scourge virus tore through the Viltrumite population and reduced it from thousands of the most powerful warriors in the galaxy to fewer than 50 survivors. Not a military defeat, a biological event that the most physically dominant species in existence had no answer for. The most feared empire in the galaxy was suddenly running with fewer active members than a mid-sized office. Thrag was managing a startup and telling the entire universe it was a Fortune 500 company. Every aggressive, paranoid decision he made as Grand Regent looks completely different through this lens. He wasn't ruling from strength, he was managing a slow-motion extinction crisis while projecting absolute invincibility. Because the moment anyone discovered the real numbers, the illusion collapsed. The iron control, the obsessive breeding programs, the elimination of anyone who showed disloyalty, desperate triage dressed up as dominance for thousands of years without breaking character once. That is one of the most terrifying things any villain in this show has ever done, and it's the foundation for the secret that makes all of it worse. The one thread that could unravel everything was making sure nobody found the rightful heir, because if they did, his entire reign evaporated overnight. After Argol was assassinated with no heirs, Thrag was tasked with finding the royal bloodline. He searched. He found something, evidence the line didn't end with Argol. And instead of announcing it, instead of doing the one thing his duty literally required, he buried it. Because the moment a legitimate heir existed, his claim became exactly what it had always technically been: a placeholder appointment that had wildly overstayed its welcome. The bloodline leads to Nolan Grayson, and then directly to Mark, the half-human kid. The Empire spent years dismissing as an embarrassment is, by the foundational rules of the very hierarchy Thrag enforced for thousands of years, the legitimate ruler of the Viltrumite Empire. Thrag didn't just know this, he actively suppressed it. Every hostile move toward Mark was never just tactical. It was the behavior of a man trying to destroy evidence before anyone reads it. The most powerful being in the known universe, spending thousands of years terrified of a teenager from Earth who didn't even know his own bloodline. Imagine being thousands of years old, the strongest thing alive, ruler of an interstellar empire, and your biggest existential threat is a kid who only got his powers in high school. If you remember nothing else from this video, Thrag isn't scary because he's strong. He's scary because he's desperate. Everything from here makes complete sense through that lens. Everyone treats Thrag and Omni-Man as a straightforward enemies story. It's far more layered than that. Thrag respected Nolan, genuinely saw in him the best possible expression of what a Viltrumite could be. Their relationship before the betrayal was the closest thing Thrag ever had to a peer. When Nolan defected, Thrag didn't just lose a soldier. He lost the one Viltrumite whose loyalty he had actually counted on, and then discovered the man he respected most was carrying the exact bloodline that made his reign illegitimate. The person he trusted above all others was the living proof he was never supposed to be in charge. That isn't betrayal. That's the universe constructing the cruelest possible joke and delivering it personally. When Thrag fights Mark and Nolan simultaneously, he dismantles them completely, then lets them go. The reason is pure mathematics. A dying empire with fewer than 50 warriors cannot afford to waste Viltrumite blood even when it belongs to enemies. He beats both of them half to death and walks away because he calculated that killing them costs more than keeping them alive. That's not kindness. That's a desperate man making resource decisions in real time. After exile, Thrag retreats to Thraxa and begins rebuilding. Then Battle Beast arrives, sent to finish him while he's isolated and away from any support. What follows lasts days, not hours. Days. Two of the most physically devastating beings in the universe, methodically destroying each other on a remote planet with nothing at stake except survival. Thrag loses an eye. He loses limbs. He comes closer to death here than at any other point in his existence. He wins. Barely. And when he recovers, he takes Battle Beast's fur coat and wears it. Not as a trophy, but as a permanent visible reminder of how close he came to losing everything. He turns his near death into armor and puts it on every single day. Most people hide that kind of vulnerability. Thrag chose to wear it publicly, because surviving something that should have killed you isn't weakness to him. It's the highest possible credential. Most people get a participation trophy. Thrag got a fur coat made from the guy who almost ended him. Different mentality entirely. After exile, Thrag stops wanting the old empire back and starts building something new, his own, from scratch, answering to no history, no bloodline, no rules except the ones he makes. The children he breeds on Thraxa aren't family. They're manufacturing. He accelerates their aging, trains them as soldiers from the moment they can stand, and deploys them as weapons. He literally uses his own children as projectiles in battle. The gut punch the show is about to reckon with in Season 4, Thrag is doing to his children exactly what was done to him. He was engineered from birth with no choice, and he took that experience, the most defining, dehumanizing thing that ever happened to him, and decided it was the correct model. He didn't survive his manufactured childhood and choose something different. He reproduced it, because in his mind, being made into a weapon isn't cruelty, it's purpose. It's the highest thing the hierarchy ever gave him, and he never once questioned whether the hierarchy deserved that faith. He built a family, the same way he built an army, because to Thrag, those have always been the same sentence. Comic spoilers from here, skip ahead 90 seconds to stay clean. The final fight between Thrag and Mark doesn't happen on a battlefield. It happens inside the sun. Mark drags them both into the core of a star, burning everything down to muscle and bone, and keeps fighting, keeps talking, walks Thrag through every way he failed as a leader, as a Viltrumite, as the regent of an empire he was never supposed to rule. The physical fight becomes secondary. What Mark is conducting is an execution, and he's making sure Thrag understands exactly what he's being executed for. Thrag survives being submerged in a star long enough to keep fighting, and he loses anyway. Not because Mark was stronger in that moment, but because Mark was willing to burn everything, including himself, to finish it. Thrag spent thousands of years being the most logical, most coldly rational force in the galaxy. What ended him was something with no logic in it at all. Grief, love, the absolute refusal to let go, even when letting go was the smart move. He survived thousands of years, a dying empire, the Scourge virus, and Battle Beast. What finished him was a kid who refused to stop. Season 4 is the first time show-only fans meet Thrag properly. Everything the show spent 3 seasons building, the hierarchy, the royal bloodline, Mark's growth, Nolan's entire arc, was scaffolding built for this single collision. Casual fans think they're about to watch a war story. They're actually watching the most logical villain ever written collide with the one thing his existence never prepared him for. Someone who fights not with strategy or experience, but with the kind of commitment that cannot be planned around. When Season 4 escalates and the politics get complicated, and new Viltrumites start appearing, you'll already know exactly who Thrag is, why he moves the way he does, and what the show is actually saying underneath all the violence. You'll be watching a completely different story than everyone around you. The full arc of what Mark becomes on the other side of this war. That's the next video, because that story is too important to compress into the last 60 seconds of this one. 3 things to hold on to. 1. Thrag wasn't born evil. He was manufactured by a system that offered him nothing else. 2. His entire reign was built on a secret he buried for thousands of years, and the Grayson bloodline is that secret, walking around in broad daylight. 3. His final fight isn't the strongest villain losing to the hero, it's the most logical villain in the show's history, being defeated by something logic could never account for. Which Thrag moment from the comics do you think Season 4 absolutely cannot skip? Drop it below. I'm replying to every answer in the first hour, and if you want every Season 4 breakdown before the rest of the internet catches up, you already know what to do.